Welcome to Facts TV News, where everything is true. 2 dead, cop injured in Clarendon crash. 2 people were killed and a third injured in a motor vehicle crash along the Osborne Store main road in Clarendon yesterday afternoon. Reporters understand that the injured policeman is in hospital in serious condition. Statutory declaration case of former MP Horace Dolly put off. Former Member of Parliament Horace Dolly, who was summoned to court for failing to file his statutory declaration, had his case put off to July 15 because he is ill. The case was mentioned yesterday in the Kingston and St. Andrew Parish Court. Attorney at law Charles Ganga Singh, who is representing Dolly, apologized to the court for his absence. Ganga Singh, in applying for an adjournment, told the court that Dolly's absence was due to the fact that he was sick. Dolly was served with a summons in March for breaching the Integrity Commission Act. He is accused of failing to file his statutory declaration for the period 2020 to 2021. Official statement from Assistant Commissioner of Police Clifford Chambers in regards to the incident at Cornwall Regional Hospital.
This morning, there was a patient from a Mafuta district in St. James who was admitted at the Cornwall Regional Hospital with a medical condition. He was restrained based on his behavior by the medical team and was being treated. However, his relatives might have been of the view that the issue that he was suffering from was not medical but was spiritual, and proceeded to release the restraint and became boisterous with the medical team, indicating that they want him to be released from the hospital. As a result of that, the medical team, I was advised, decided to release the patient in the custody of his mother and have his mother sign a release form, and thereafter they left with him. Police responded to a complaint, and upon the arrival of the police, the medical team, I was advised, briefed the police, after which the police left the location to carry out further inquiries. There was no confrontation between police and any gunman at that location, and there was, for that matter, no confrontation between police and the family members. The gentleman is a former taxi operator and from all indication was never part of any gang and has never been involved in any confrontation with the police. As it is right now, we are looking at the situation to see what next the police can do to intervene in the man's condition, because the medical team are of the view that he has a medical condition and not a spiritual condition, as we call obia.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness stated that young people add tremendous value to our society in so many ways, and we must engage them to expand their participation and to help them maximize their potential. He further stated that we must tap into the knowledge capacity of our youth and harness their creativity to assist the government in crafting programs that they themselves can fully participate in and benefit from.
To be considered in the labor force, you have to be of a certain age, at minimum 14, and you have to be actively looking for work. The challenge we have in our society is that there are many persons who are able-bodied, of age, some are in school. So that's legitimate. You are in school, you're working, some persons are homemakers and they are at home. That's legitimate. But we have a large number of Jamaicans doing a pastime, boring a hole in their hand middle. And we need to get those young people now into the labor force, because that is an important consideration. How do we attract them into the labor force? We have to provide them with training, but we also have to adjust attitudes, mindset, because some don't want to work, and some you put them to work on the site and it's problems. Lack of discipline, and some of them are there, to carry out gang activity. So there needs to be a national mobilization of our young people. And we had started this with the HOPE program. Unfortunately, that was derailed because of the COVID-19 pandemic. We're going to resume that program and get our young people back into a national service training program to help to adjust their attitudes so that they can become trainable and then employable. But the problem is one that is, greater than a short-term fix, which is what we're going to try to do. We have to look at the total human capital development, starting from early childhood, going straight through to university. And the Ministry of Education, we now have the task force report, and we will be implementing many of the measures there. But the ministry would have already started, for example, 7 years of schooling program. They put out their new sixth form program, trying to just keep our young people attached to institutions so that even if they are not exposed to intense training, we still capture them and keep them exposed, and as much as possible, we try to adjust their behavior and their mindset so that they can gain skills and employment upon leaving the education system. But even after leaving the education system at age 18, there still needs to be, given our social context, a structured program of engaging our youth. And we are now contemplating how we can have a national program of service. As I said before, compulsory national service. Some people have a different interpretation of that. But essentially, what we are contemplating is that if you're 18 and over, you're not in school, you're not employed, the point of fact is that you should be attached to something in the society that will help you to adjust as a citizen and to develop skills so that you can participate effectively in the labor pool and be productive. That's the thinking, that's the idea. Now, how do we mobilize the society around this? There are many differing perspectives, and there ought to be genuine debate and discussions. But I want you, the young people, to be the advocates for this, to think of the creative ways in which the government can develop programs that will attract young people, so that we don't have to say it's compulsory. We should be able to design the program that young people want to come in, and that those who are deviant and don't want to, those are the exception.
Homeless elderly feted. More than 1,000 homeless people in Kingston were treated to a day of care at the St. William Grand Park in downtown Kingston on Saturday. The event was the inaugural staging of the Desmond Mackenzie Wellness Day of Care, put on for the homeless and the elderly, named in recognition of local government minister Desmond Mackenzie for his contribution towards the care of the homeless population over the years, and held under the theme, Empowering Our Most Vulnerable, Protecting the Homeless. It was an atmosphere of festivity for the often neglected homeless population in Kingston and St. Andrew, as some were transported from Halfway Tree and Crossroads to the venue, where they gathered to the sound of music blaring from speaker boxes. They were also treated to meals, medical and dental care, as well as professional counseling done by volunteer doctors and psychologists, in addition to services rendered by the Registrar General Department and the National Council for Senior Citizens. Kingston Mayor Delroy Williams, who hosted the event, said the aim of the initiative is to provide service to the vulnerable population. With the pandemic measures now relaxed, the homeless population would have experienced a difficult time. Hence, there is the need to implement several programs and take some initiatives to provide care for the often neglected people. We decided that it would be good to do this as part of our general program where we provide some 800 meals twice per day for the homeless population and also to raise awareness to the issue of homelessness and the challenges they face, Williams stated. The mayor continues, so we come together to do this as a service and also to position the city of Kingston as a caring city. It is important to us that we have this image within the country and across the globe. Williams said the new transitional center on King Street will be officially opened in May to serve the growing homeless population. Meanwhile, Mackenzie said he was happy to be associated with the event because of his passion for the homeless population. We are going to extend this initiative to the parish of St. James in June. The Board of Supervision have commenced working to have a similar one in Montego Bay, Mackenzie disclosed, while lauding the initiative as significant. Nita Robinson doubles down on defense of Privy Council. Attorney at law Valerie Nita Robertson has doubled down on her position that Jamaica should not at this time abandon the United Kingdom Privy Council for the Caribbean Court of Justice, CCJ, saying that there first needs to be total trust that the regional court will adjudicate on matters without cultural, social and political biases. Nita Robertson, a Queen's Counsel, advanced her position in a column sent to the Jamaica Observer and published just over 2 weeks after the Privy Council upheld the appeal of her client, Leston Edwards, a former cop who was in 2013 sentenced to life in prison for the murder of his girlfriend. Immediately after the Privy Council ruling, Nita Robinson had praised the decision with a post on her Twitter page saying, "Justice lives. Justice delivered for an innocent man by the Privy Council. It's heartrending that the land of your birth did not. Long live the Privy Council." The Twitter reignites a long-running and passionate debate on whether Jamaica should retain the Privy Council as the country's final court of appeal or join the 4 Caribbean states that are now using the CCJ to determine criminal matters. It also puts her at odds with the opposition People's National Party, for which she was a candidate in the 2020 general election and which strongly advocates Jamaica moving to the CCJ. Nita Robertson, in her column, noted that proponents of the CCJ have advanced only 2 arguments. First, that the CCJ will complete the cycle of independence as we shed ourselves of our colonial past, which includes a reliance upon the British judges, which they review as judicial symbol of colonialism, and second, that the court will provide greater access to justice as people will be able to take matters to a final court at a much reduced cost if they are aggravated by the decision of the local court, and they can do so without having to apply for a visa, pointing out that there is no question that the intellectual capacity of the judges locally throughout the Caribbean and at the CCJ compares favorably with the judges elsewhere in the world. Nita Robertson advised caution in moving to the CCJ. Firstly, we must be careful that as Jamaica moves towards the abolition of the Privy Council, that this is based on the trust and confidence we have in the CCJ to deliver justice and is not based upon any benefit or advantage to any political position or to advance in a particular government for political reasons, she argued. We need to be confident that our political disputes are not going to be adjudicated within our region by people who are influenced by the cultural peculiarities, social and class biases which so affect us in our small space, as those are not considerations which should affect or even determine justice, Nita Robertson added. In the small societies in which we live and operate, it is a fact that cultural, social and political biases exist. We as a country and a region have not been successful in characterizing classicism, social biases, and so on, and we cannot deny our reluctance to offend politicians who hold the reins of the government. Too often, there is an unwillingness to strike down the conduct of those who hold high office and wield political powers, she said. Our measure of the standard of justice that is required for all Jamaicans must be considered by references to decisions made by our local courts. These are the people who are likely to sit on the CCJ, she argued. Nita Robertson pointed to a number of cases in Jamaica and the Eastern Caribbean in which the Privy Council overturned the decisions of local courts, some on evidence that should have been submitted at trial. One of my concerns which affects my confidence in the CCJ is that of the biases and prejudice we experience in our own countries. Judges in London are far removed from local circumstances and conditions and have little knowledge of same. This, therefore, allows them to approach a case with no preconceived notions, biases, or desire to retaliate for real or imaginary grievances. Such fears cannot be dismissed or disregarded in today's world, she said. In small societies like ours, predetermined bias and hostility towards individuals because of knowledge of previous incidents and so on are cold, hard facts of professional life commonly attested by many, including myself, she added. 49 new COVID-19 cases in Jamaica, 1 death reported. The Ministry of Health and Wellness reported 49 new COVID-19 cases and 1 death on Monday, April 25th, bringing infection total to 129,681 and total deaths to 2,949. The new cases comprise 24 females and 25 males, with ages ranging from 1 day to 108 years. The cases are recorded in St. James 12, Kingston and St. Andrew 9, Westmoreland 7, St. Anne 6, St. Catherine 5, Clarendon 3, Hanover 3, Trelawney 3, and Portland 1. The deceased is a 48-year-old female from St. Catherine, whose case was previously under investigation. There were 76 recoveries in the last 24 hours, bringing the total to 83,144. Currently, 20 people are hospitalized, 5 of whom are moderately ill and 1 critically ill. Jamaica's positivity rate for the latest round of testing is 12.3%. Please remember to subscribe, like, share, and click the notification bell for daily updates.